It's been 25 years since American Pie came out in 1999 and became the iconic franchise for a generation heading into the Y2K, early internet stages. Captures the innocence of sex, the expectations that we put on sex with the other individual and with our buddies, like, hey, who's gonna get laid first? All of that is encapsulated here with American Pie. That first time with someone and being vulnerable can be a scary and awkward moment. Something I wouldn't know. American Pie came out in 1999. I was just a kid, middle school, wasn't really allowed to watch it. American Pie 2 came out. I was in high school, didn't watch it, didn't care to watch it. I only discovered or rediscovered these films recently when I picked up the DVD set for $5. And I gotta say, as much vulgar and jokes and over-the-top humor and raunchiness, there's a lot of heart to these films. So much so, I had to seek out the Blu-ray set, which includes the theatrical and the unrated, as well as a 3-hour documentary about the whole franchise, and commentaries, all the special features that the DVD didn't have. So yeah, I became a huge fan rewatching these films, particularly the first two. They just spoke so much to me. The soundtrack is right around that age of, Third Eye Blind, Blink-182, Sugar Ray, these awesome like punk emo hits that came out, and it's just, and Three Doors Down had the big hit from American Pie 2, Be Like That. It's just so much nostalgia that got me going here, and it's what really gripped me was the relationships here built. And that's tribute to the script, the storytelling, and the cast. Amazing cast. I mean, Jason Biggs playing Jim. I could identify a lot with Jim and his struggle with being so turned on by women and wanting to be with somebody that he would embarrass himself in front of his friends just to get there on the webcam and everything. It's just, man, I've been there, but I haven't been to that kind of exposure. But man, I could relate to his character. Michelle ending up being Jim's love. After the first two films, we find out that Jim's really in love with Michelle and Michelle becomes kind of sort of a sex coach for him at one point. An amazing arc for the first two films of their little romance get-together thing, because Jim's really into Vanessa for the most part, and only does he realize that Michelle is the right one for him. So there's a romantic aspect to these films as well. Chris, played by Chris Klein, and Heather, their relationship really was nice to see in the first two films as well, and how it grows apart later and they get back together and all that. Kevin, played by Thomas Ian Nichols of Vicky's his first, and then they end up having this great friendship throughout the next three films that I think speaks to a lot of relationships out there, what can happen. These early young loves become friends later in life. I think that really speaks to the reality of what can happen. And then there's Finch, who seems to be more of the intellectual, meditation type, and he's into the older women. Stifler's mom. Stifler honestly makes the movies. He makes the group work. He makes the group dynamic work. He makes the movies work with the humor, the overtopness. He thinks he's so cool for school, holding the parties. He's the one that glues these four films together because he's such a jerk at times, but then he gets it in the end, whether it's drinking cum out of beer or being peed on. All these things happen to him, or having Finch basically have sex with his mom. No, Finch does have sex with his mom. There's no basically, it happens. But Stifler always gets humbled. No matter how much of a jerk he is, he gets humbled. Big time. Also, Jessica, played by Natasha Lyonne, she's fantastic as, the humor here. She's also sort of a guide to certain characters. I thought she was fantastic. I really missed her in American Wedding, as well as Chris Klein. And I miss Jessica again in the American Reunion. I know Natasha Lyonne has some personal stuff going on, but it would have been nice to see her character show up. Then there's a Shermanator, This, you know, a lot of fun. He's a big Terminator fan. He calls himself the Shermanator. Just a fun side character. And then there's Jim's father, played by Eugene Levy, and Stifler's mom, played by Jennifer Coolidge. Both are fantastic veterans in the business. Thought it was great that they were brought into this franchise to sort of give it some character actors and levity as well as humor. Eugene Levy always catching Jim in awkward situations, and the classic line, "We'll just tolerate it all." It's just, it gets me every time. It's so funny. But there's heart to that father-son relationship with Jim that I think really was relatable as well. It's just, you want to make your father happy, and the father wants to raise a good son and be there for him and understand where he's coming from and going through. There's a lot that happens in these 4 films. For me, the first 2 are 5 out of 5. Just so funny. The second one, you could say, is even funnier than the first one. The third one is still good. I didn't like it as much as the first 2. You kind of are feeling like maybe they're going too far, or maybe the story's gone too far and they're getting too old. Then American Reunion, I feel like that was a disappointment. It could have been so much better. I liked the aspect of Jim and Michelle being parents, but I didn't like that the neighbor chick was sort of getting in between their marriage. I didn't like that storyline at all. I think that would have been more interesting to maybe talk about maybe how relationships sort of plateau, maybe the sex drive is lower. Going through those kind of things would have been nice to see. But it was still fun to see the crew together. There was some funny laughs in American Reunion, but I just didn't like it as much. Could they do a 5th film? I would imagine it would be a soft reboot if they were going to. But I don't rule it out. I think this cast is really close, and a lot of these guys became stars after this, and this American Pie franchise is really still popular. It had all those different spin-offs that were direct to DVD. Eugene Levy was in a couple of those. American Pie Presents movies, stuff like that. It's a great franchise that I can't recommend enough. If you haven't seen American Pie, it still holds up for me. I know some of the jokes are supposedly too racy or what, but I think it still holds up. It's hilarious, a great comedy franchise, a lot of laughs, and surprisingly heart. Let me know in the comments below, have you seen the American Pies franchise? Sorry if I spoiled a little bit of too much information, but they've been out 25 years, so forgive me. Let me know below in the comments your thoughts on the American Pie franchise as a whole. And if you like this video, please share it on social media. And as always, this has been Return of the Disc. I'm Dan.